Welcome, everyone. This is the May meeting for the Coalition on Homelessness. This is our annual membership meeting. So we've got an extended time. We're going to be together from 9 to 11 today. We have a really fun agenda for you. We've got folks coming in to talk to us about summer EBT, aka Sunbucks, really important cash benefit, food benefit for families. We've got our board of directors for the coalition. We've got our slate of candidates, and we're going to kick off the election and voting process and share all that with you today. We are going to celebrate your coalition, right? DJ Rachel has been playing songs as old as the coalition this whole year. So hopefully you've been really enjoying it and grooving along. It's the best way to start the morning, in my opinion. We are, and part of that coalition celebration is we're going to talk a little bit about history of the coalition, some wins, and some key work that we've done together. Share some beautiful images and just data so you know what we all do together. And we're going to have always staff updates, and then we've got member announcements. So I am really excited for us to get going. We love to see faces, so if you're able to come off on camera, that's wonderful. You can change your Zoom name in your little box. I think someone's already enabled closed captioning. So if you want to not be included in the recording, just stay on mute, throw stuff into the chat. We're really great about checking that and reading that out. Yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and get going. Can we switch our slide to our mission, vision, and values? And I think Erin Chapman-Smith in her new role is going to read it out for us. Thank you, Erin.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm thrilled to be back here. A month and some weeks was far too long to be gone from this group, so I'm excited to be back. So, mission, we mobilize our community to challenge systemic causes of homelessness and advocate for housing justice. Our vision, a region that acts on a shared sense of responsibility to ensure that everyone has a home, and our values are equity, justice, and collective action.
Thank you, Erin. And I love that you're back with us. And I think it's a nice reminder that this is a tight community, and we really support each other. And we're going to see evidence of that in today's celebration and annual meeting. So really happy to have you all with us. Thank you, Gina, for the heart. Really happy to see everybody and so many people on camera. Your beautiful faces are so wonderful to see. I'm going to hand it straight on over to my colleague, Tim, to set us up for our first segment.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jody. Great to see everybody today. For those who have joined meetings like this before, you know that we always try to set aside some part of our meetings to be relevant to people who are supporting unhoused community members in our communities. So we try to pass on information that is timely and relevant to help us to do that work. In that spirit, we are going to talk for a few minutes about a somewhat new, somewhat revised program called Summer EBT, aka Sunbucks. That is going to be accessible. We're going to hear a lot more from Claire in a second, but basically it's just something accessible to families who rely on free and reduced price meals through their school districts. So we have Claire Lane from the Anti-Hunger and Nutrition Coalition, who's going to explain what exactly this benefit is, how we can access it, and who is eligible. And then we also have Dee from the North Shore School District, who's going to take some questions in regards to how a person can access this, because technically there is not a state application at this point. So they will be really helpful for helping us to know how to connect to our school districts to make sure that those families get this benefit. And Claire, thank you so much for being here. Take it away.
Thanks so much for inviting me. I always love coming and talking to you all. So I'm Claire Lane. I'm director of the Anti-Hunger and Nutrition Coalition. We're a statewide coalition that works on state and federal policy related to hunger and poverty. And summer EBT, it's now branded Sunbucks. I think I'm just going to say I think this will be a summer of transition for that branding, because I think what people knew really well during COVID was pandemic EBT. Summer EBT existed as small pilots before COVID happened, which allowed pandemic EBT to sort of turn on pretty quickly when COVID hit. So what summer EBT is, it is a benefit for any kid who's eligible and enrolled in free or reduced price school meals. Each kid will get $120 in a one-time payment on an EBT card, $120 per child per summer. And that EBT card will work just like food stamps. You can use it anywhere you can use your EBT, your SNAP card. It also will work for folks that know about the fruit and vegetable match program at grocery stores and some grocery stores and farmers markets. It will also be able to be used for that. So if you've got 2 or 3 kids, that's real money for the summer when school is out and groceries are just still so expensive. So that's what summer EBT is. Washington estimates about 550,000 kids are going to be eligible. That will bring in 66, if all the eligible kids in Washington got summer EBT, that would bring $66 million in federal food aid to our state. So it has the real impact, both on a family level and collectively. And here's how it's going to work. And I am going to put in the chat, DSHS has created a webpage for Sunbucks that can give you all the information you need. But I'm going to give it to you in a little bit more succinct ways. So summer EBT is going to work just like food stamps in terms of family. A kid qualifies for it if they're, and will get their cards starting mid-June. If that kid is already sort of classified with their school as already being eligible for free or reduced price meals. And there's a couple ways that kids are going to be eligible right off the back and on their school's list, if all goes right. So first, obviously, if a family at any point this school year, including right now, and I'm going to tell you a little more about that, and probably North Shore folks will, if a child's family has filled out a school meal application for this year, that kid's already on the list as eligible for summer EBT. If a kid's family is already enrolled on basic food stamps, SNAP, if they're enrolled in SNAP at any point this school year, they will already be on the list and be eligible. If their family's on TANF, they're on that list. If the child has been identified during the school year as homeless or migrant or a foster kid, they should be on the list already. So those are the categories of what we call sort of directly certified or directly eligible for school meals and therefore for summer EBT. Is everybody with me on this? So things for you guys to do right now with the families you work with is A, make sure your kid's school, the kid's school has their current mailing address or the best mailing address to send a summer EBT card. Because that list that this DSHS is going to be working off to issue those cards is going to come from the school district saying, these are the kids who are eligible and this is where you send a card. So one of the most critical things for unstably housed families, right? Whatever they said on their forms at the registration, all the like back to school stuff in the fall, very often that's not the same contact information and mailing address. So families, one of the things you can do right now is make sure families know what address their kid's school has on file and make sure that there's the best possible address for them. For families that don't have a stable address, they don't have a place they can reliably send this card, which is worth a lot of money. A lot of school districts had allowed families with summer EBT to use the district as their mailing address, and families could go during the summer to the district office and pick it up. Schools did a whole bunch of things. I can't really tell what the school district you're working with or your families are in did, but there are workarounds for that lack of address, but a current mailing address right now. For families you work with that maybe are not on SNAP, it's possible they didn't fill out a meal application because the school that your other kids go to offers free meals for all kids, regardless of the paperwork, right? We've really expanded access to free school meals. That won't qualify them. In those schools, you have to they don't fill out a meal application, they fill out basically the same information. It's just called a household income survey or form. They have to fill that out. So if their kids are going to school where meals are free for all, thank you, Sarah, for the letter. If they're going to a school where meals are free for all, and they're not already directly getting any other benefit that would tag them or identify them, they have to fill out that form. And I'm just going to really encourage you, as Tim said, DSHS is setting up an online portal for an application directly for summer EBT, but it's not up yet. And the families that go through that, I think the expectation is going to be started sometime. The application will be up by the time school is out. But those kids, it's going to take a while longer for those applications to process and for families to get their benefits. So there's this like sweet spot right now where you can help families get whatever paperwork you're in now, and then they would be on the list to get that first round of benefit cards. Questions about any of that? Then the last thing I'll say, so you can, as you're working with families and we're getting closer to the end of school, you can keep checking back at that dshs.wa.gov/sunbucks. That's the page for it. There's also, I'm going to put in here, OSPI has put together for each school district where it's possible. And I think I checked, and I think all the King County school districts are listed. It's the Find Your District's meal application. And so it includes both the actual meal applications and that alternate household income form. So that's a quick way. I will tell you, COVID made me a mystery shopper at school districts to find out where do you find their application. And it's very hard on a lot of district sites. So this finder was a super great thing that OSBI did. So you can go there. If you can't find your district's form, reach out to your McKinney-Vento liaison and ask them. There you go. Love your list. Perfect timing. And I really encourage you to start talking to your liaisons now and saying, what is your district plan for homeless kids? How are you doing that outreach? How are you making sure they know where they can pick up their card and how this is all going to work? The other thing I wanted to say, there's two things that are great that DSHS did, and we got funded by the legislature. I checked yesterday, it was supposed to launch yesterday and it wasn't live when I did it, but I'm going to put the address in. Families and also providers who work with families can sign up to get text messages about Sunbucks that will provide information like, hey, have you, it's coming soon. Is your address up to date? Hey, we're mailing cards now. Hey, we mailed cards 2 weeks ago. If you didn't get yours, here are the things you can do. Just like pandemic EBT, and you guys will appreciate this. The other really best thing that's happening is DSHS and OSPI are contracting with a third party, and just like pandemic EBT, that third party is working with the IT that has all the right lists, can look at who's on SNAP and who's on the school lists. They can troubleshoot questions about how to pin your card so you can use it, all of that. And it is not DSHS's call center. It is standalone customer service call center, so families do not have to wait 4.5 hours to hear, oh, your card's coming next week. So the contact information for that call center, I think, is in that letter that Sarah added. But we're super excited that there is more of that prompt and more of that opportunity to engage and point people to the right number, which is not the big call center. The last thing I'll say is, unlike SNAP, summer EBT benefits are only going to be on the card for, I think it's 122 days. So
Yes.
if you don't spend those benefits, essentially this summer, they get expunged. The benefits are gone. They don't roll over. They don't last as long as food stamps. So the other thing I'd encourage you, if you're working with families who are having a hard time, encourage them to use their summer EBT benefits first before they use their food stamps. And I'm doing a training at the farmers markets to also remind families when they come, you can get matched for produce, also use summer EBT first. So those are all my things. And I will let the school folks at DSHS add other stuff. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Claire. Dee, do you have anything to add from a school district perspective?
Well, the one caveat that I wowould say is, yes, the address is super, super important. Most school districts do have that McKinney-Vento liaison that will take charge of those cards, but then it becomes incumbent on the family to try to pick them up somewhere. So if we can find an address that's good where the family can get the card, that's the best case scenario. Claire is right. Those benefits expire in 122 days. So if there's a delay in getting your card, you're not going to get that money back if it expires. Once that card is empty, it's a done deal with that card. So that the address, I would say, is the biggest thing. If people are having any trouble applying for, so Claire was talking about the CEP schools or the Provision 2 schools where everybody is already fed, they should contact their school district. All kids go to school every day, even homeless kids. So get them into that office. All of the schools in the state of Washington, I have never seen or spoke with anybody in my position that doesn't have a stack of applications 6 feet high. Get one of those applications, spread them out in your district, put them everywhere. We don't care. What we want is those applications filled out and back in. Next year, it's supposedly going to be a little bit easier to get kids on the Sunbuck program that may not qualify for the free meals because their school already serves them free meals. So there's going to be a box on that form. So everybody needs the form. Doesn't matter what school they go to, get that form filled out and get the best address that you can. The problems that I've seen mostly are people just being able to get that card in their hands before those 122 days are up. Claire mentioned the Accenture call center. That is when, after doing PEBT with the first year, it was a nightmare. When they added Accenture, it is amazing. The people there, they know everything. They've got the answers to all the questions. It's a great, great, great resource, but we got to get you qualified first. They have to be qualified by June 30th. So they say June 30th, but what they really want is the last day of school. So districts across the state, districts across the county have different last day of school days. If you can get them on before the last day of school, and then the account specialist at that school is going to upload that list, it's amazing how much easier it goes rather than trying to backtrack and put in a application with the SHS or with Accenture. So those are my big things that I would say, just that those items. Do you have any other questions that I can answer?
Can I clarify something? So my understanding is what you said was right. Like if kids are signed up through their school, through the school meal application before school gets out or before the end of June, that's going to be a really seamless process for them to get their card. But they can still sign up on the portal that DSHS hasn't launched yet through the summer, correct?
They can, but what I'm saying is that is a much longer process.
Yes. I
Yeah,
just want to make sure that
getting
people
those,
understand that even if they miss that deadline, there will be this online application that will be a much delayed process and very complicated. And this is why we're talking about it
yeah,
now.
yeah.
But yeah.
And the 122 days does start from the date that the card is issued. So there's not a hard cutoff date for those cards, but if you're waiting all summer with no money, you're waiting all summer with no money. There isn't a way to speed it up at all. So absolute best way is to go through your school, because we're working hard right now to getting our lists all figured out. And then we go into that Accenture database and just upload our lists. We know immediately. They come back to us within 24 hours and tell us, oh, you have a problem with this kid. Is this a good address for somebody? Did you put this down? Really? All of those kinds of things. They're excellent to work with, and it's the absolute best way to get that money dispersed out to families.
Awesome. So for a simpler process, and expecting people to have closer relationships with school sometimes because your kids go there, we really do recommend filling out that school meals program application if you are not already enrolled.
Right. Right.
And if you miss the deadline of the last day of school or the end of June, like folks said, there will be an application that is statewide to enroll in this program. It will be a little bit more complicated, and we'll hear from a DSHS representative next month to talk about that. So if you miss the deadline, we'll be able to share a little more information next month.
Yeah.
Erin, do you have a question?
Yeah, I am just wondering if y'all would be willing to drop your emails in the chat in case we have additional questions. And I would also love to pass this information and your contact information off to kind of the state director for communities and schools Washington, and make sure that they have that information too. I know they're not part of the coalition, but could be really helpful for them. So.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. That's what we love to do here. We love to make people as accessible as they have capacity to be. Thank you so much for joining us in our coalition where we try to share information amongst our community. I want to take one last call for questions for our wonderful presenters, Claire and Dee. And if anyone has questions that they want to marinate on, you are welcome to email Claire. She has her email in the chat. I'm going to put my email in the chat. You can email me and I can pass it on. Okay, thank you so much for adding your contact information, Dee. All right. Well, that's really good, vital information that I'm glad that we can pass on. Switching gears a little bit, we are going to go into an important part of what our annual meeting is, which is beginning the process of onboarding board of directors for next year. So for that process, I believe I'm going to hand it over to Allison to talk more about this process.
Thanks very much, Tim. I want to say good morning to everybody. I'm Allison Eisinger. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the director of the Seattle-King County Coalition on Homelessness. Some of you who have been around for a while may know the fact that the Coalition on Homelessness became a 501c3 relatively recently in 2017. Before that, the coalition was fiscally sponsored by one of our member organizations. And one of the things that the coalition's then board and staff decided to do was to choose to incorporate as a membership organization, which means that under Washington state law, we're required to have an annual membership meeting. Well, that made us all laugh because actually we convene our members multiple times a year, every month, and then some. But this May meeting has become, in addition to our regular membership meeting, our annual membership meeting. And the annual membership meeting is the point at which we hold elections for the coalition's board of directors. That is the governing body of people who provide leadership, guidance, direction, and hold certain governance responsibilities under state and federal law for our mighty coalition. I'm really delighted to be joined today by Robin Koski, who has been connected to the coalition for many years and who's currently serving as the acting president of the board of directors for the coalition. Robin, do you want to wave your hand? There we go.
Morning, everybody.
And I'll let Robin introduce herself. Robin is going to share the bio sketches. I'm going to help her out of the 4 people who have been nominated to serve 3-year terms each on the coalition's board of directors. We have a really wonderful slate of candidates this year, as every year. And although the timing is such that none of those candidates was able to join in person today, we're hoping that they will be able to join the June 20th membership meeting, either in person or with a short little video so that you can meet them. And I will turn things to Robin to let her introduce herself and start the process of sharing the board candidates with you. Maybe before I do that, I will say, thanks to Jody and Rachel for setting up the online voting process. So each organization of the coalition that's a current dues paying member has the opportunity to vote for the slate of candidates. If you're not sure, get a hold of Jody. I think we've done a lot of outreach to our member organizations prior to today, but there's a full week during which the elections are open. And so we will help make sure that you get a chance to cast your vote. Robin, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you all today to share the list of new candidates for board membership. And I just want to say that I'm very grateful to all of the people who are willing to serve. It's really, quite wonderful. And we have a lot of work to do on the board to make sure that the organization is adequately funded. And to make sure that we have representation on the board. And so I also just want to say, none of them are here today, but there were a number of board members who went through the process to interview board candidates, go through applications, and make sure that the people who are serving on the board were prepared to do so. So I just want to thank all those board members for their time and effort to get this slate to you today. So I think Allison introduced me adequately, so I'll just go right in to reading the first bio, and Allison and I are going to go back and forth, so you're not hearing the same person drone on for a long time. The first candidate for the slate of board of directors is Nathan Bax. He's the communications and engagement manager for Mercy Housing Northwest. He's a 2007 graduate of the University of Central Oklahoma, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts in Broadcast Communications, and a 2013 graduate of the Masters of Nonprofit Leadership program at Seattle University. Nathan has worked in the nonprofit sector since 2011 with stops at Kent Youth and Family Services, Skid Row Housing Trust, the Center, and the Senior Center of West Seattle. Nathan is the co-chair of the Nonprofit Leadership Alumni Council at Seattle University, member of the Seattle University Gold Council, co-chair of Gay Good for Seattle, chapter advisor for the Beta Beta chapter of Pi Kappa Alpha at the University of Washington, president of the Rotary Club of South King County, and Alki Pride board member. He and his partner, Brandon Reeves, live in Renton. So clearly, lots of extracurricular activities and experience to offer the coalition.
Thank you, Robin. I will also say I've learned a little bit about Nathan, which includes that he likes baseball. So we might be having a Mariners outing for coalition members and board. So the next person who is on the board slate this year is Jamie Felton. Jamie has been working in social services since 2019 and volunteering for nearly her entire adult life. About 20 years, she says. She runs a mutual aid group called Project Nightlight, which she founded, and it provides education around harm reduction, how to identify an overdose, and how to administer Narcan. She founded Project Nightlight to honor the memory of 2 of her friends and coworkers who died of overdose. And she has been running that organization for 7 years, focusing on the Seattle nightlife scene. Prior to that, she helped to, as a volunteer, create and run the Seattle chapter of a nonprofit called Eat for Equity. She also worked at the Seattle King County Public Health Department for 4 years in the needle exchange program and is a passionate practitioner of harm reduction. Jamie is currently a housing case manager at Reach Evergreen Treatment Services.
The next candidate is Lindsay Goes Behind. She spent the entirety of her social work career working to ameliorate the effects of colonization, systemic oppression, and racial and economic inequities in communities most impacted. Lindsay holds a master's in social work from the University of Washington and has served in many leadership roles over the years, including her current position as Chief Seattle Club's Program Officer. Prior to this role, Lindsay served as the Managing Director for the Naha Ilihi Fund in Seattle, Washington, Health Policy Manager for the Native American Youth and Family Center in Portland, Oregon, and an adjunct professor at Portland State University in the MSW program. Additionally, Lindsay is the co-chair and treasurer for the Yeehaw Indigenous Creatives Collective's Board of Directors, as well as the Equitable Development Initiative and the Common Acre board member. She also serves on the King County Communities of Opportunity Governance Committee. Lindsay is also a mother of 3, auntie to many, and member of the Alabama Coushatta tribe of Texas. She was born and raised in the Pacific Northwest on the Lummi Reservation and spends her downtime with cracking jokes, singing with her family drum group Flicker Tail, harvesting and making traditional remedies, and feeding any and everyone who comes through her door. Everyone who comes through her door. Also a very distinguished candidate.
Yes, and the 4th person in this group of underachievers is Shannon Wong. Shannon has over a decade of experience in nonprofit leadership, community building, and advocacy. She's the Senior Manager of Individual Giving at the Downtown Emergency Service Center, DESC. She serves on the Board of Directors for the Association of Fundraising Professionals Advancement Northwest Chapter, and she's an advisory board member for the UW's Professional and Continuing Education Nonprofit Fundraising and Grant Management Strategies programs. At the heart of her work, she's committed to dismantling systemic racism and advocating for healthcare and housing to end homelessness. So needless to say, we're really thrilled that these 4 people are choosing to offer their time, talent, and strategic services to serve on the board of directors. I think what we're going to do, for some reason, my screen view is super weird. There we go. I think I'm going to look to you, Jody, to see if there's anything you would like to add about the details of voting, casting a vote in this election. The opportunity is open for a week. So again, if you're not sure about your own organization's ability to vote today, don't worry, reach out to Jody. We will get you set up. And we look forward to having a chance for you to meet and welcome those 4 individuals in the June 20th meeting.
I think you said everything I would highlight, but just look for an email coming from me. And if you're not sure if your organization is a member or you want to become a member, it's never too late, friends. It's never too late. We welcome you always. And if we, get a interest in this next week and you want to vote, that counts too. So a commitment from you and your organization. So yeah, just look for that. And yeah, please, I threw my email into the chat if you have any questions or concerns, or I sent it to the wrong person, or you need me to send it to someone else. I'm your gal.
Thank you so much. Jody.
Yeah.
And thank you so much to Robin Koski. Robin, you have set a wonderful environment for folks to join the board. We're really grateful to the people who are currently serving on the board, and we're hoping that I'm just going to put a little plug in here for our June 2nd lawn bowling party and fundraiser. We're really hoping to have a chance to see many of you at Jefferson Park at the Lawn Bowling Club on Sunday, June 2nd. We're going to be thanking the outgoing board president, Keiko Budich, and thanking the incoming board president, Robin Koski, and maybe there's a chance for you all to meet other folks, including the 4 we just introduced you to. And I think we are now going to transition to another part of our annual membership meeting. Thanks, Jody, for the ticket. Yes, I should say the tickets for lawn bowling are sliding scale. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but the point is we really want this to be our community gathering. So everyone from frontline staff to folks who have limited income, we have sliding scale tickets, but if the lowest end ticket is too much for you, hit us up, because we've got some comps available and we want to really be sure to welcome everybody to that gathering. Now we're going to move on to the part of the annual meeting that is celebrating your coalition. We have a slideshow that our wonderful MSW graduate intern, Kristen, has put together. I'm just going to check in because my screen shows only a portion of the slide. Is that just how I have things set up?
No, I'm seeing it that way too.
Okay, I think there we go. That looks a little better. Not entirely sure. This is your first. This is a kind of a funny introductory slide to share with you. But this is my cue to give you all a little bit of history, and it's history that predates me, even though I've been with the coalition for quite a while. I've not been at the coalition as long as it has existed. This is the 45th year that we've been a community-powered force for housing justice, and the coalition was initially founded in 1979. They did the sort of proto version of what became the one night count in the fall of 1979, and it took them until May of 1980 to pull together all of the data and issue a press release. And they scheduled their press conference for the exact day that Mount St. Helens decided to erupt. And therefore, the coalition's first ever press conference was kind of a bust, as you can imagine. But this is an example of the oral history that got passed on to me when I became the first staff person at the coalition in 2006. People gleefully told me this story. And among the things that we're hoping to do at the lawn bowling party in June and also at our fundraiser coming up on September 12th is to invite folks like Martha Diltz, who were founding members of the coalition back in the day, and to have them help us tell the story of how we grew from a small group of folks who just had the sense that they needed to band together because doing things together would allow them to do things more powerfully than any individual group or organization could do. I am slightly distracted by what's going on in the chat, so I just want to ask staff, is there anything do we need to pause so that you can adjust anything about the presentation?
No, I don't think so, but I am going to make a plug
Yes,
because I didn't get in there ahead of time.
pardon me.
We have some really key information we're sharing with you folks today for a really fun Jeopardy portion after this. So, keep your ears perked for key things with some like door prizes. Just a little tickler preview. Okay, take it away, my beloved director.
Thank you very, very much. I think there may or may not be a quiz. Yeah, no, it's not a quiz, it's a game. Okay, so the coalition's been around for quite some time, and I think one of the most important things that I always tell anyone and everyone when I talk about this organization is for 27 years, the coalition was an all-volunteer organization. It's hard to think of too many organizations that have lasted almost 3 decades just through the sheer self-organizing power of their members, who are also doing the everyday, every night work of shelter, outreach, help with employment, housing, and also influencing what local government investments in housing, homelessness, and human services look like. This organization, as far as we can tell, is the oldest independent homeless advocacy organization in the country. I think we're a little bit older than the National Coalition to End Homelessness. And what that should give all of us, I think, is a sense of pride that we have a rich legacy that the folks who came before us have passed on to us, that we together need to mobilize our community to challenge the systems that cause homelessness and to advocate for housing justice. And what we do now and how we do it creates the legacy of collective power for those who are going to come after us. And with that, I'm going to invite Kristen and others to continue the slideshow for our year in review.
All right. So amongst all of those important components that continues challenging systemic causes of homelessness, we believe at voting is a really important process of advocacy that everyone has access to. Well, many people have access to, and those who believe that they don't, we try to reduce misinformation, bring resources to people in service sites and community spaces, and just make it really easy. So we do a program that I most lead called the Voting Rights and Registration Program. We hold a series of trainings, events, and partnerships to help to activate this work. In recent times, we've had events that try to span the breadth of King County. We certainly get around a lot of Seattle. We get through North King County. We've been making some great partnerships on the east side. This work is constantly expanding. So since this graphic was made, I have not had time to update that I was in Maple Valley yesterday, speaking with some folks who have been impacted by the criminal legal system, working with YWCA. So this work is constantly expanding. We visit spaces where so many people frequent. We visit day centers, we visit shelters, we visit libraries, food banks, resource fairs. And these all are spaces that have people coming in with kind of a variety level of capacities to talk about voting. Sometimes it's starting a conversation, understanding like, oh, well, I don't have a permanent address, or I don't have a state ID. I don't think I can. Or really often we hear, I have a past felony conviction and cannot vote. We work to counter that misinformation. It is indeed a lot easier in Washington to vote than in a lot of other states in the US. And to bust those stigmas. People's voices are important. They do lead to impactful changes in community and impactful investments. And as we are preparing for a couple of big elections this year, we work to just constantly expand that knowledge base and build those connections. Can I get the next slide? So we have a lot of numbers here. Basically, the important point to take away is just that we work pretty constantly due to work that I make time for and work from our volunteers. We held 52 events in 2023, as many events as there were weeks in the year. So like I said, we do events that are consistent. We have monthly reservations essentially at resource fairs and libraries and other service sites. And then we have events that are centered around elections. Like I said just a minute ago, we do have 2 big elections coming up. Because of that, we are hoping to hear from volunteers who have interest in doing this work. We know that people in this room are very, very busy, and we are not asking for service providers to spend more of their time doing this outreach. I will say, if you know of people who have time to do this work, or if you have interest in bringing some of this work to your site and sharing it with your clients, we'd love to continue that spread of information. I'm just going to put my email in the chat one time really quick to plant that seed. I really would love to have conversations with anybody who would like to talk about the significance of voting and how people who are unhoused can share their voices. It is something that is personally significant to people. It is something that can be empowering as somebody who has experienced homelessness or incarceration to be able to make an impact on their community and have shared interests in common with other voters in their community. It also does real impact. We've passed levies because of voter engagement. There are some initiatives on the ballot in November that have a real risk of changing how we fund things and safety nets for people who are aging if people do not vote on. So I'll just leave it there. I think the biggest message that we try to share through this, other than people have the skills and tools to vote, and we can make it even easier, it really does matter. It really does impact our communities. It impacts how we fund things. It impacts people's ability to be protected by governments and social service agencies. And I appreciate everyone's work who has committed to spreading information about voting rights and access. And I will pass it on to the next presenter.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. And I'll just put a quick plug before we depart that topic. Tim does fantastic work with our crew of devoted volunteers to bring that voting rights education to many, many sites around the county. If you would like to join that lovely club of volunteers, we have 2 opportunities, training opportunities coming up that Allison has put in the chat. So check that out. Okay, on to policy and advocacy. So policy and advocacy work, as you know, because you've probably got a lot of emails from me in the past year, is a huge part of what we do at the coalition. So I'm going to attempt in 5 minutes to just give a few highlights of some of our advocacy efforts from the past year and a half at the city, county, state, and federal level. Next slide, please. So one sort of snapshot of our state level advocacy is, for the first time in many, many years, we brought a group of folks in person to Housing and Homelessness Advocacy Days in Olympia. We've got, I saw Daniel Martin's in the house, Robin Koski is here, they're both in that photo to the left. We went to Olympia together. We brought over 30 people with us on the Advocacy Express bus, as we call it, to join us and in talking to our legislators from all across the state to tell them what's important to us as advocates to keep people housed in the coming year. So one of the big things that we were there to fight for was for rent stabilization, to limit rent increases from year to year to keep people from getting evicted out of their homes into homelessness. We got further on that bill than ever before, and we will definitely be calling on your help again in this coming year to move that even further forward. This photo to the right got even national attention. This photo is from the New York Times. There was an article about all of Washington's efforts to protect vulnerable renters that got a lot of national attention. If you look very closely, me and Kristen are somewhere in that photo. All right, next slide, please. At the county and city level, we did a lot of work to get important funding for human services and for housing. We were really proud to be a part of renewing the Veterans, Seniors, and Human Services Levy in King County. We got really close to significantly increasing that levy, but the county fell one vote short. So next time that levy rolls around for a renewal, you know that we'll be pushing for a significant increase to that really important funding source for human services. And in that levy's implementation plan, we were able to mobilize over 100 people in just a couple days to save $6 million that had been allocated for the human services workforce that then through the legislative process was going to be taken away. And so we mobilized in just a couple days, got hundreds of folks to write emails, and we got that funding saved for the workforce investments. That was super, super exciting and really important. It just shows what we can do together when we all speak up together, we write to our council members, we show up at meetings, we can really make some significant change together. We phone banked, oh, I'm not quite done yet, sorry. We phone banked to renew the biggest ever Seattle housing levy. We helped pass the crisis care centers levy, and all of these will add important new resources to our communities to support the really, really important work that we're all doing together. Okay, next slide, please. In addition to all these kinds of advocacy, we've taken legal advocacy this year. So shout out, I see Nancy Kick is here, Daniel Martin is here. They've both been a huge part of our advocacy in the city of Burien. We filed a lawsuit over the city of Burien's cruel and unusual camping ban that attempts to banish people experiencing homelessness from the city. That is just, we don't make a habit of suing cities, but we do it when we have to. And so that's just another form that advocacy can take. Okay, next step, please. And another way that we took legal advocacy this year is we wrote an amicus brief or a letter to the US Supreme Court as they review a case called Grants Pass versus Johnson, which will decide essentially whether cities can punish people who are experiencing homelessness for living outside, even when there's nowhere else for them to go. Oops. Okay. We also hosted a community advocacy briefing on this topic, and a really important part of our advocacy is helping keep our community informed, both of what's going on and also what they can do about it. There were over 250 people from all over the state who came to our community advocacy briefing. It is on our YouTube page. I would definitely recommend taking a look at that. We had a lot of guests speak really powerfully about what's going on and what we can do together. So just to wrap up, I think I just really want to emphasize that our voices when we speak up together are powerful. And just to give you an idea of scale, in 2023, our community generated over 12,200 messages to elected officials in a year. For various campaigns at various levels, right? City, county, state, et cetera. But that is just really a huge mobilization effort, and it really, really matters. So we will invite you to continue to join us in advocacy in the year to come. Right, I think we're going back to Tim for trainings.
Awesome, thanks, Hallie. Yeah, so we are going to talk about some of the work that folks in this room may have likely already experienced. A major value of ours in part of advocacy, in kind of like a larger scheme of advocacy, is provider investment. We know how hard you work. We know that it is challenging to build capacities to do professional development and like absorbing like all of these community updates and bulletins that affect everyone's work. So we try to infuse that into our meetings and trainings. So the first of which is, if you're attending this meeting, you've likely attended other general membership meetings. We host those monthly. In the past year, 951 people have registered for those meetings. We have a lot of people register for these meetings, even if they can't come, because they know there is value in registering to then get a recap or to view the recording later on. That is something that we always try to do. We try to infuse information that is actionable in all of these meetings, just like we did talking about the summer EBT program, things that impact people's work and ability to serve their clients facing housing barriers. We also have advocacy in some of these meetings. We basically try to fit as much as we can into usually 90 minutes to make this something that a person can reasonably step away from their day for a bit of time and return energized, knowing that they've received information and received opportunities to advocate and to feel like a part of a community. This has not always been a virtual meeting. It used to be an in-person meeting. I remember when we had those in the past before the pandemic. I do think that we've done a great job in infusing energy and a sense of connectedness into a virtual meeting. So we just appreciate that people continue to come to this and to learn with us and advocate with us in our monthly membership meetings. And I just wanted to include kind of a snapshot of some of the topics that we've discussed in the past. We have talked about a landscape of crisis response in King County. We've talked about the King County Vets program. We've talked about DSHS mobile outreach, tenant law center resources, their tenant hotline, free tax filing, updates to the Seattle Housing Authority voucher list, how to advocate locally. These are all things that we want to continue offering people as they become relevant or updated information. And now let's move on to trainings. We do just about as often as meetings, we offer a provider training that helps to provide slightly more comprehensive, deeper, and richer information to allow service providers to do their work, mostly in the sphere of public benefits. We know for anyone who has navigated public benefits, whether that be federal Social Security disability benefits, SSI or SSDI, or state benefits like food stamps, TANF, Medicaid, Medicare, it can be challenging. It can be complicated to process an application and not be denied due to technicalities. To have a person's challenges documented in a convincing way, to be patient through the long process to having applications processed and benefits granted. So we partner with organizations like Benefits Legal Assistance from Solid Ground and Benefits Law Center, and also Northwest Justice Project to provide informative trainings that help people to navigate these systems. We also hold an annual training specialized for youth providers, people who serve families and youth who are experiencing homelessness, on the federal McKinney-Vento law. This is a training that we are always trying to update that captures essential information for providers who are working in tandem with schools in communities, at youth shelters, at nutrition providers, at ancillary services for youth and families that just help to remind people that students who experiencing homelessness have rights mandated by the federal government and facilitated by school districts so that they can have equal opportunity for stability to achieve an education. That is going to be later in this year. Please, opt into our emails to hear more from us. But know that this information in all of our trainings, public benefits are key, McKinney-Vento, and other trainings that we put on are informed by people who attend them and our larger community to be relevant and worth your time. A couple of numbers to briefly go over. We did 9 trainings in the past 12 months. We've had 535 people total attend them. 368 of those people were unique attendees, meaning that people come back to these trainings. People see information that is valuable and they return. We are grateful to know that this information is generally valuable to people. We receive feedback surveys reaffirming that point, that and we take feedback as we can to make it more relevant for people. And people who attended spanned 102 organizations across the county and sometimes across the state and beyond. We're just really happy to help to grow our greater coalition membership in this aspect and to know that this information is spread widely. And I think we'll pass it on to the next section.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So, as Tim mentioned, every year we do our Helping Homeless Students, our McKinney-Vento 101 training, and we usually like to pair this with Project Cool for back to school. So this is really a community project that's really near and dear to not only the coalition, but the wider community, and has many, many, many years of really a group effort. Hundreds of volunteers, individuals, families, organizations, businesses really rallying together to make a student that is experiencing homelessness, specifically living outdoors, unsheltered, in emergency shelters, transitional housing, a smoother start to their school year. So the coalition works with our member organizations to identify those students that need new sturdy backpacks that are filled with all kinds of new school supplies. We augment that through many, many donations, so we can get a lot of different school supplies packed in there, dental supplies, hygiene supplies. And we also really pair this with age-appropriate, culturally congruent books. And we'll get those kiddos reading and engaged in imagination and escape and the joy of reading. In 2023, we served a little over 1,600 students from 12 of our member organizations. And you can see Rachel, Tim, and I prepping early morning at our partner, the Bryn Mawr United Methodist Church that hosts us every year. They're a new partner as of last year. And then we've got students from the Fatima School, it's a private school, raising money with their car wash to support students and donate to Project Cool. So there's a lot of ways to get involved in Project Cool and to make kiddos new start to a school year maybe a little smoother, maybe a little more joyful, maybe a little more relaxed. We are in the midst of working on Project Cool for 2024, and we are on track to serve about 1,600 students again from about 16 member organizations. As part of this, and Tim mentioned, we really like to have our trainings informed by the folks that are doing this work, really understanding the issues you all are facing and the key skills that you all need. We are going to be having a listening session probably in the next month or two. We're working on identifying a date. So if you are an organization that does advocacy for students experiencing homelessness, if you work with families that have children, youth experiencing homelessness, we'll be reaching out because we want to hear how the coalition can do advocacy and support of students experiencing homelessness and families year round. So broadening that program and thinking through what you all need together. So I'm going to pass it to Allison to move us on to what's coming next from your coalition.
Thanks, Jody. I think I'm going to suggest, I'm not as familiar with this part of the slideshow, but I'm thinking that I only have a couple of minutes here. So what I would like to do actually before you go on to that slide, I'm just going to ask you to stop sharing the slideshow for a second so we can kind of all be together. Great. Thank you so much. So what's coming next? I think we have to acknowledge that we are doing our work together in a time of enormous uncertainty, anxiety, even anguish, and enormous unmet need. Many of you may have seen that the King County Regional Homelessness Authority just released the 2024 point-in-time count data. And those data confirm what I think all of you understand and know from wherever your perspective gives you insight into the current crisis of homelessness and the lack of affordable homes. We've seen a significant increase in our community, over 16,000 individuals homeless on any one day or night. And we know that that means that, you know, something like 50,000 people in King County experience homelessness in the course of this year. And the numbers of people who are in shelter have increased because there have been increases in shelter, which is a positive thing. And the number of people who are unsheltered has increased because we are not investing in the either short-term or long-term solutions at the scale that meets the need. Part of our role as the Coalition on Homelessness is to always speak those truths and to educate and inform the people who may either not understand those truths or may choose to ignore them as they are making decisions about policies and budgets. We have the privilege, because of all of you, because of our member organizations, because of our donors, we have the privilege of being able to speak the truth no matter what. And we exercise that privilege together because it is our obligation. I think that one of the things that's extraordinarily powerful about these meetings is that we get to see folks who are new to this work, and we get to see folks who've been in this work for years. There are people who are in this virtual room who have personal experience of homelessness, of housing instability, of substance use, and of recovery. People who have been incarcerated, people who have loved ones who are struggling with behavioral health issues. And we understand how broken, inadequate, or working as they are designed to, some key systems are, and also that it is possible to recover, to heal, to welcome people home. We're all passionately committed to being able to recognize that together we're going to continue to fight for a region that acts on a shared responsibility to make sure that everyone gets home. We're not naive. We don't think that's going to happen quickly, but it is never going to happen unless we continue our persistent collaborative work together and are able to ratchet it up when we need to. I'm just going to note for everybody, we did something that I think is kind of typical of this organization, which is why I love working at the coalition with the wonderful people whom you just heard speaking. This is a small and mighty team, as we say it, but what we do is we use the resources that together we have created so that we can amplify important messages, important information, and the fact that there are many people who believe that housing is the right solution to homelessness, and that punishing people, finding them, arresting them, jailing them is counterproductive, wasteful, cruel, and the wrong way to proceed. So what we did was we said the community needs to understand what's going on at the national level and at the local level. And we asked our partners at the ACLU of Washington and the Northwest Justice Project to join us to put a community advocacy briefing together. That community advocacy briefing had over 500 people register and over 250 people attended. And we know that many people have since watched the recording of it. We know there's going to be part 2 because sometime in June, the United States Supreme Court is going to issue a ruling in the Grants Pass case. We don't know what that ruling is going to be. There's a lot of speculation, and it's a really interesting possibility that there might be a ruling that is not quite as bad as what we anticipate, but it's also entirely likely that there will be a really terrible ruling. And we are going to be prepared together, all of us, to take action based on that. Our advocacy is stronger because we know that we don't always win, but we also understand that we are in this for the long haul together. So with that, I invite you all to make sure that you come back for our June 20th membership meeting. And we are now going to engage in a collective game playing of Jeopardy! I myself can't wait. So over to you, Hallie and co.
Thanks, Allison. So before we start Jeopardy, we thought people might be a little nervous answering questions if they're on the recording. So if I could have one of my colleagues please pause the recording. Perfect. Thank you so much. And we will wrap up with our next section.
So I hope you all enjoyed that as much as we did, because it was really fun to put all that together. And I'm just going to do a little plug because, as we've talked about, the coalition is us. And it's been many, many of us over the past 45 years doing this amazing work. And I suspect you all, your colleagues, your friends, maybe your clients, your guests, also have wonderful memories or important historical knowledge about the coalition that we would love for you to share with us. So you do that in any way that is easy for you. You drop any one of us a link, an email. We are going to have an activity at the fantastically fun lawn bowling fundraiser and party on June 2nd, where we're going to have a large sheet of paper broken into decades of the coalition with some prompts and some anchoring of key moments throughout our history that we're going to invite people to share. Photos, relics seems like the wrong word, but it's the one that's coming to my mind right now. Memorabilia, that's the better word. So glad we turned the recording on for that. All of that to share because historical artifacts. Thank you, Allison. We are wanting to collect all that and really share with our community the hundreds of people that have contributed to the amazing work that we do. Priceless memories. Thank you. Where all were you 30 seconds ago? So I'm just going to invite you all to do that in any way that is possible. We're going to have a couple different opportunities coming towards folks to share their memories and their experiences of the coalition over the next several months. So just be on the lookout for that. We have our June membership meeting coming up. We'll get a link to that so you all can register for that. We have a food training that's going to be happening, basic food training. So building on that summer EBT Sunbucks, that's coming up on June 27th. I'm going to throw that link into the chat here. We already mentioned we've got the volunteer voter registration trainings that are coming up on June 4th and June 8th. So I believe that's a Tuesday afternoon and a Tuesday evening and a Saturday to really try to accommodate folks' schedules. So please share that widely with anybody that you think might be really interested or wanting to know. We threw the link into our community briefing. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to be doing some listening sessions. First up is going to be with folks that work with families that have kids experiencing homelessness, youth and young adults that are students experiencing homelessness. So whether you're doing direct work with those folks, if you're doing advocacy work with those folks, supporting those folks in any way, we're going to want to hear from you about just starting to think through what the coalition can support and what that can look like going forward, and also thinking through what works really well with Project Cool. I just got the note that I'm apparently very quiet, so sorry about that. That might be the first time anyone has ever told me I have been quiet, so you know, you're welcome or not. Allison, did you want to talk a little bit about just a preview of the member survey that is going to be coming at us later this year?
Sure. Thanks, Jody. Maybe 2024 is the year that we get used to saying we're going back to doing something that we did before the pandemic. Even though the pandemic is not over, and we know that, we are trying to normalize things, including getting together in person more often and surveying our membership. As you all know, there are some ways that we define membership kind of narrowly, as in dues paying member organizations get to vote on our board of directors slate. But we also define membership very broadly. And that's because if you consider yourself to be a member of this coalition, guess what? You are, for the purposes of education, advocacy, taking collective action, contributing to and participating in coalition events and activities, but also community events and activities. And we had a practice of every couple of years asking our members to tell us things like what kind of benefits they get from our membership meetings and how we might expand our membership meetings, or what kind of topics they're interested in for trainings. So we're going to do some of that, but we're also going to invite you to help us do things like think about the changes that the last 4 years have wrought in our own practice and advocacy, and what might work well for you, your coworkers, and the folks you serve now. One of the things that we are acutely aware of is that involving folks who are currently experiencing homelessness in advocacy looks really different now than it did pre-pandemic. And we are committed to making sure that people who are or who have been homeless actually get to say their piece at the local, county, city, state, and even federal levels. But we need your help to think about what that's going to look like and what's going to work in the age of Zoom, when a whole lot of people don't have internet or phone. And so we're going to invite you to help us think about some of the different ways that we collectively want to do some of our work. So we'll be sending the survey out in June. We have a wonderful opportunity to give a small acknowledgement benefit to the first 100 people who fill out the survey. Historically, we have amazing response numbers from our membership. So help us, rack up 100 responses in the first few days, and then we'll go from there. And we'll, of course, always entertain your comments, suggestions, and things for us to consider as we go through our ongoing continuous improvement process at the coalition.
Great. Thank you, Allison. And I think that leads us into our member and community announcement. So I'm going to turn off the recording as I hand it to Tim.